It's the 17th of July, and this is your News Bite brought to you by eNCA.com. I'm Marcel Gordon, and in your news today, unsafe food handling in Gauteng in the spotlight, Donald Trump says China rigged the 2020 US elections, and Casa prepares to get London jiving for Mandela Day. Unsafe food handling practices have left residents of Gauteng vulnerable to food poisoning and contamination. This is according to a report by Public Protector Clegg. It's based on an investigation into at least 23 children's deaths linked to contaminated snacks from spaza shops and street vendors in 2024. Clegg says the province faces serious problems in enforcing food safety regulations.
It can be concluded that the Gauteng province is replete with unsafe food handling practices, remains open to risk of food poisoning and contamination. Furthermore, considering the severe capacity challenges within environmental health services in the form of EHP shortages, the DOA's inspector deficiencies, as well as inadequate training or designation as peace officers, there are grounds to conclude that the Gauteng province currently lacks the proper capacity to enforce food safety practices by informal food retailers, including spaza shops, vendors, hawkers, and school feeding schemes.
The Public Protector's report also highlights failures in Gauteng school feeding schemes. It found that some schools lack proper facilities and are not complying basic food handling requirements.
Further evidence received also shows failure by school feeding schemes, especially those administering the NSFAS, to comply with basic health safety regulations and are operating without a mandatory certificate of acceptability. The evidence revealed that most of the public schools in Gauteng with feeding schemes are without proper food preparation areas, dedicated changing facilities for food handlers, and storage of personal clothing items, despite being issued with statutory notices. All these limitations are direct contraventions of applicable food handling regulations.
The Public Protector also highlighted evidence that some South Africans are colluding with foreign nationals to break the law with the practices of business fronting, where license holders and actual operators do not match. Investigating Directorate Against Corruption head Andrea Johnson has been subpoenaed to appear before the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry. Now, she was due to testify at the commission earlier this week, but was admitted to hospital before her scheduled appearance. Johnson's been accused of misconduct, including an improper relationship with disgraced Police General Feroz Khan. Meanwhile, former Hawks officer Mbongeleni Mpangase appeared before the commission on Friday. He was one of the officers involved in a drug bust in Isipingo in Durban. Now, he claims to have been on leave when the drug bust happened, but was called back to work due to a personality conflict between Colonel Gavin Jacobs and some of the other experienced officers.
Lieutenant Jacob wayephethe usanapu wawudivideke kabili.
Jacob was in charge of SANAP, and this particular SANAP was divided into two.
Captain Mbele.
One was belonging to Captain Mbele.
Lieutenant Colonel Modley.
The other one was the Lieutenant Colonel Modley.
So wona group engazwani nawo lawo ngaleso sikhathi.
Those indeed were the groups he was not in terms with.
Small Business Development Minister Stella Ndabeni says municipalities must slash the red tape, which often holds back small businesses and informal traders. Business owners are complaining that municipalities have clamped down on them by accusing them of failing to comply with local bylaws.
Part of the red tape is to look at what prohibits or limits businesses from being successful. And amongst those are the bylaws that are put by municipalities, which is why we encourage all traders, informal and formal, to to take interest in the development of the bylaws, including challenging those that are not favorable for them. So that's why I said we have the business forum here. We'll be listening to them, and then we'll engage with the municipality on how best can we respond to the challenges without undermining the bylaws, but also without ensuring that we exclude the people, because it's important that they be put in areas where market is available. We can't take them and put them at the back of the town where there's not going to be traffic. We are about promoting local economic development, which means bylaws must support that.
To the UK now, where Andy Burnham is the new leader of the Labour Party. It paves the way for the former mayor of Greater Manchester to take the role of UK Prime Minister from Keir Starmer on Monday. The new leader says he wants to fix the big things that politics has neglected. eNCA's Ollie Barrett reports from London.
Well, Andy Burnham sailed through this Labour leadership process unchallenged. He's now going to be Labour leader for a few days before he actually becomes Prime Minister, taking over from Keir Starmer on Monday. It's at that point we expect to start to get a bit more detail from Andy Burnham as to what his government is going to look like. We know he wants to concentrate much more on the north of England and the other regions of the United Kingdom. We expect him to be therefore on the road in the early days of his government, showing that that will be a real focus away from London. But there are critics of Andy Burnham's who say he needs much more detail when it comes to policy. What's he going to do around the cost of living, around energy prices, around international policy and foreign affairs as well? Who will be his cabinet picks? All sorts of rumours that Shabana Mahmood will be his chancellor, but that is all unconfirmed as yet. His critics say he's been avoiding scrutiny. Andy Burnham, though, will become Prime Minister on Monday, and at that point we will know with more certainty what his premiership is actually going to look like after a series of controversies and missteps led to Keir Starmer being removed as Labour leader and therefore Prime Minister. Ollie Barrett, eNCA, London.
To the US now, where President Donald Trump has accused China of interfering in US elections, again repeating his claim that the 2020 presidential election was rigged. However, those claims remain unsubstantiated, with more than 60 court cases and Justice Department investigations finding no evidence of fraud. Trump and his Republican Party allies have often insisted that they should have won those elections against Joe Biden. And with his latest approval rating slumping to below 40%, ahead of the midterm elections, the Trump administration has decided to make election security a central issue. Trump made these latest claims during a speech on Thursday night during prime time in America, but a number of major news networks in the US did not show the speech live. In the speech, Trump said he has declassified intelligence that he said showed that the Chinese interfered in the US elections. The US intelligence community had found no evidence of interference in those elections. The elections they did, however, find evidence of Russian interference was back in 2016, the election which brought Trump to the Oval Office for the very first time. In other news, we're keeping an eye on Judge Andre Lagrange has reserved judgment in President Ramaphosa's application to suspend the work of the Impeachment Committee. He's expected to deliver his ruling by the end of next week. The Impeachment Committee say they continue with their work until ordered otherwise. And thousands of students at institutions like UNISA are having to deal with persistent National Student Financial Aid Scheme payment backlogs. Higher Education Deputy Minister Yusuf Qasim says he's pushing for systemic updates to clear the funding delays. Onto the world of sports now, and Springbok hooker Malcolm Marx says last season's Player of the Year award counts for nothing as South Africa shifts focus to Wales in the Nations Championship on Saturday. The world champions head into the clash on the back of consecutive victories over England and Scotland.
It was a while ago and I can't rely on what happened last year to pull me through this year. I've still got to work extremely hard and make sure that I'm diligent in my preparation. It was an honour and a privilege, and I said it last year, none of that stuff is achievable without the environment and the team and the coaching staff that we've got. But unfortunately that is in the past now, and I'm focusing on this year and I'm focusing on this weekend against Wales. It's the same sort of physical Wales side that they've always been since I first played them. So we are expecting that. We know they won't go away. So we've got to make sure we're well prepared and physically front up for this game.
Now on to cricket awards, and Lungi Ngidi is looking to build on his impressive form after claiming 3 honours at the CSA Awards on Thursday night. The Proteas bowler was named Men's T20 Player of the Year and SA Fans Player of the Year. His delivery to dismiss England's Joss Buttler in the second ODI has also brought him the Delivery of the Year accolade.
Well, I would like for us to qualify for the WTC again, the final. I'd love for us to defend that. I'd like to win all the home series. I think that would be big for South Africa, especially in front of South Africans. And then there's SA20 coming up. I played in the final this year, so I'd like to win one of those. And then, I guess just keep putting my name in the history books and breaking records. That's the one way that I've found motivates me to perform well for the team. It does sound selfish, but I guess it also works out in the end because you're aiming for high results. So, those are just some of the goals.
Well, as the footballing world prepares for the World Cup final between Spain and Argentina, Human Rights Watch is urging FIFA to hold a minute's silence before Sunday's showdown. Now, past hosts of the FIFA World Cup have often come under scrutiny for their approach to human rights. But the US seems to have escaped the same focus. Just this month, 2 people in the US were shot dead by US immigration agents. Here's Minky Warden of Human Rights Watch.
It would be entirely appropriate for FIFA to stage a minute of silence before the World Cup final in MetLife Stadium. There is an ICE detention facility only 9 miles away. And it is an opportunity that FIFA has to make good on its promises that this World Cup would uphold human rights. When we think of this World Cup, the world is going to think of the ICE killings, the ICE deportations that happened at the same time the World Cup was going on. We're going to look back at this World Cup like Mussolini using the World Cup to lift up fascist propaganda, or the Argentine dictatorship disappearing people. The story, the narrative for this World Cup in the US, Canada, and Mexico, where the majority of matches were in the US, is that this was a MAGA World Cup where immigrants who have every right to enjoy the World Cup also had to fear the midnight knock on the door.
And finally, having a good time should really be one of South Africa's top exports. And London will get a taste of that this weekend when some of our top musical acts put on a show at Trafalgar Square for a special Nelson Mandela Day concert, marking 30 years of South Africa's celebrated constitution. There will be performances by Clegg, Sipho, Mchunu, Zakes, Bantwini, and Casa, just to name a few. Here's Jay Something and Dr. Duda.
Our hopes are anything to go by, then maybe what you can expect is a certain spirit that we believe we carry as South Africans. We call it the spirit of Nelson Mandela, but I think it's also the spirit of a nation, a spirit of hope, a spirit of unity. And we believe we are conduits of that through music. And if we can feel that togetherness on stage, I think we would be celebrating and doing the moment justice.
And what about a London crowd for you guys? How special is it to be back here for this particular event?
I think London has been special to us, especially as we, as a band, celebrating 15 years doing this thing. And when we started as wanting to bring everyone together in one house to be happy, to dance together, whether you're white or black or Indian. It doesn't matter where you're coming from. So we've been doing that for the past 15 years. So I guess that's one of the things that brought us back here.
I think it's, to live a moment that I think carries a lot of significance. I think that the pressure of the day is to try and encompass everything that Nelson Mandela Day encompasses. And I hope that if we can all feel that, see it, taste it, share it, looking forward to all the other acts on stage, looking forward to, I think, our culture being shared. We have a very unique and very special message as a country. And I think hoping that London and everybody that gets to see an eye into it, whether it's through social platforms or whatever it may be, gets to feel it too.
And that's how we wrap today's News Bite. For developments in these and more, keep an eye on eNCA.com and DSTV channel 403.